Hello everyone! Today we're making my favorite baklava. Baklava is definitely one of the most delicious desserts I have ever tried in my life, and the expertise you have to put behind it explains why it's so good. Well, I was going through some YouTube videos trying to see if there's any good baklava recipe, but it turns out that 90% of them use phyllo dough bought from the store. Well, that's not what we're doing today. We are going to start everything from scratch. So let's grab all the ingredients and start making baklava. I forgot to say, it's not gonna be easy. For the dough, we need 3 eggs, half a cup of olive oil mixed with vegetable oil, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of milk, a pinch of salt, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. We will also need 2 cups of cornstarch to open the phyllo dough. We will use 2 cups of butter for the baklava. And to make the simple syrup, we'll use 3 cups of sugar, 2 cups of water, and half a lemon. For the filling, we will use 250 grams of raw pistachios. In a large bowl, mix together 2 egg yolks, 1 whole egg, and the milk. Combine them really well until we get a homogeneous consistency. Then add the olive oil together with the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. This time we are going to use our hands to mix it until a plate dough consistency is formed. We are going to move the dough in a flat surface and continue to work on it for about 10 minutes to activate the gluten. This process is very important because it's gonna help us to open the phyllo sheets. After we are done working with the dough, we are going to put it back in the bowl, cover it up, and let it rest for about an hour. While the dough is resting, let's combine together the cornstarch with 3 tablespoons of flour. We are going to use this mixture to open the phyllo sheets. To crash the pistachios, I'm going to use the rolling pin. The pistachios should be very fine. Also, it is very important to clarify the butter until it gets this golden brownish color. To do so, put the butter on medium heat for about 15 minutes. Last but not least, don't forget to check my Instagram page, Giulio Cooks, where I post other recipes and restaurant reviews. After 1 hour, let's take the dough and cut it into 3 equal pieces. We are going to roll each piece, cut it into 4, roll it again, and then cut them into 4s so that we can make in total 16 pieces. If you think you have too much dough, you can also make smaller pieces. I had to make about 20 to 30 small balls of dough each, which makes it a total of 80 sheets of phyllo dough. Then we are going to take each of the doughs and roll them into spheres. Next, we are going to start rolling each of the small doughs into small circles. Make sure to use lots of starch because that's what's going to separate each of the sheets from each other. When our phyllo sheet is ready, we are going to start rolling the second, the third, and on until we have a big pile. Put together 10 to 15 of them and start rolling to your desired size. Every 8 to 10 rolls, make sure you flip the sheets so that it opens up evenly. Once we get to the desired size, we start rolling the next one. And now for the hardest part, we need to separate each of those sheets from each other. To test how thin our phyllo sheets are, they usually use a newspaper, but in this scenario I'm just gonna use the bag of pistachios. Oil up the baking tray and start placing your phyllo sheets. Usually, people spray each of the sheets with butter, but we're not going to do that for the bottom layer. Separating the sheets is going to be hard. Here is one that I failed. And here I try again and I still fail. But don't worry though, because not every sheet has to be perfect. The reason why we separate each of the layers is for the air to be stuck in between of them, so that each of the sheets cooks evenly and becomes crispy. When we are about halfway through, we are going to add 2/3 of the pistachios. Then we are going to add more layers, but this time we are going to add butter on the 4th or 5th sheet. After about 10 layers, let's add our leftover pistachios. After we have added all the layers, we are going to cut out the imperfections and then cut the baklava. Cutting before cooking is very important because it's going to absorb all the butter that we are going to add later. I'm going to cut it into 8 pieces first, just like a pizza, and then cut each of those pieces into smaller triangles. I know it sounds confusing, but trust me, it's very easy once you get the hang of it. After we are done cutting the baklava, make sure to add the butter that we melted earlier. Do not forget to tilt the pan sideways so that the butter is distributed evenly. We are going to bake the baklava at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and then lower the temperature to 260 degrees Fahrenheit and bake it for another 2 to 3 hours depending on how big your baking pan is. This long baking process will make sure that each of the phyllo sheets are cooked perfectly. "15 minutes before the baklava is done, we are going to start preparing the syrup. Different from the traditional recipe, I am going to caramelize the sugar a little bit to elevate the flavor. To caramelize the sugar, add all the sugar and just half a cup of water. Then put it on high heat and continuously stir until the sugar becomes brownish. As soon as the sugar is caramelized, make sure to add the rest of the water, but be really careful because it's going to start boiling right away. We are going to let it boil for 5 more minutes and then add half a lemon. The lemon is going to stop the sugar from crystallizing. And this is how baklava should look right after it's baked. The secret to getting the crispiest baklava is to pour the hot syrup as soon as the baklava is done baking. On the contrary, if you'd like it softer, you can let it rest first and then pour in the hot syrup. Now let's enjoy this ASMR of the syrup sizzling. After we pour in the syrup, we will let the baklava rest overnight so that it absorbs all of it, and then it will be ready for consumption. And here is a point of view of all the layers. If you did like this recipe, don't forget to subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next video.